Jack Smith, you'd think, after that Supreme Court case would say, you know what, I'm having to fight for my life as a prosecutor down at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which, by the way, ACLJ filing in on October 3rd. Just want to underscore that we're involved in all of these. We filed in the Fisher case, which led to the fact that he had to now file a superseding indictment, which, by the way, he didn't have to do. He could have realized, you know what, we lost this one. It's not a strong enough case. Prosecutors are supposed to make those kind of decisions, even if they feel so strongly that Donald Trump did something on January 6th that they want to prosecute. If they get a case back from the top court of the United States that makes it basically impossible for them to bring the charges that they wanted to bring, they can't just keep bringing them and then changing the terms around and say, well, let's not call him President Trump, even though he was at the time. We're going to call him Candidate Trump. I mean, that's one of the differences in their brief. But he was the president at the time that he was making those speeches. Because as the Supreme Court says, you got to define all these terms. What is an official act? What's not an official act? And that's not so easy in the middle of a presidency, even towards the end of a presidency, when you are the actual president and you're speaking in front of the White House, for goodness sakes, about the election and election integrity. Seems like all things that a commander-in-chief would have authority to speak on in their official capacity. So let's get to the phones, Will.
And before we do get to the phones, I want to follow up on something you said about kind of like the timeline for people, because many people watching this show or listening on radio have probably never heard the term superseding indictment. Yeah. So essentially, as the way I understand it, is the superseding indictment is a brand new indictment that's going to replace the one he already indicted.
So it goes through the whole.
It went through a grand jury to get a superseding indictment, a completely different panel. So he basically charged again Donald Trump in the same case. But if you think about how long it already took in this case with the expedited review by the Supreme Court on immunity because of the presidential election, take that category out of it. All of the motions to dismiss, all of the motions to get rid of certain evidence, even the judge looking at what's immunity and not immunity related to the Supreme Court case, even if it were to play out, this is years long. It's hitting the reset button on this case and looking years into the future to ever get to a trial.
Yes. I mean, again, Jack Smith has got to go through and you got to explain this to the district court judge. The district court judge, they would have to be okay with, you get the replies from the Trump attorneys, and then you go back and forth, then you may start a trial, maybe, but then there's going to be those same issues pop up about defining which of these acts that you're alleging are acts. Just because Jack Smith says they're not official acts doesn't mean a court is going to agree, or that a 3-judge panel, in the D.C. Circuit is going to agree either. Just like you saw the Supreme Court say that you've got to go back and check that first. So it doesn't matter that he can't just claim that. He'll have to fight that out. So no, none of this. First of all, if President Trump is elected, these cases are gone, all of them. What would be interesting to see is if the special counsel case remains, just to see whether or not special counsels are or not legitimate and can be appointed or not. I think we'd all like to know that one. But this case, gone. So if President Trump is elected, if he's not, Harris can let this case continue. They can continue this political persecution of President Trump, even though I think the actual prosecution completely fails. But it costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time and resources. And by the way, remember, ACLJ was involved in the immunity case at the U.S. Supreme Court. I just want to keep reminding you all the steps of the way the ACLJ has been involved in defending your election integrity since this attack, an assault on election integrity, began by trying to remove President Trump from the ballot because of these actual cases themselves, cases that had not come to a final agreement. And when they did, they lose, and so they've got to come back and start over, even though, as we've pointed out to you, they are well within that window of time where they should not be filing new cases. Will, let's go to the phones.
Let's go to Ann in Pennsylvania on line 1. Ann, you're on Seculo.
Hey, gentlemen. Thanks always for your amazing work. I really fear something going on with our election that's about to take place in just a few months. To me, there's specific special circumstances in voting early. And if voting early wasn't bad enough, meaning continuing to count the ballots, it was the night of 2020 that they continued to count ballots after Election Day. And this went on for a week and 2 weeks. And then they finally called the race for Biden. Well, this is one of the reasons that I'm so thankful for you guys, because the fact that you're going after the Fisher, you're following the Fisher case, you're supporting the J6ers is just amazing to me, because I'm telling you, if we don't have an election with integrity, if we're not able to have one man vote, one woman vote, okay, and we don't get rid of this fraud, we lose our country. That's number one. And as far as Jack Smith is concerned, he's basically bringing the same case back.
Yeah, it is exactly. I mean, when you look at it, it's the same four charges, same four main charges. He took out a couple of the others, but that's because he had to. And he didn't really take out the charges. He redefined a couple of the others by, like, saying, for instance, and instead of calling President Trump, he calls him a candidate in the 2020 race when he did this, because he wants to imply that he was doing this in a role as candidate, though he was president at the time. And Will, you point out the Hatch Act, which prevents federal executive branch officials from getting involved in politics in their official capacity, doesn't ever involve the president. The president's completely excluded from that. So they can always be both in their official capacity and acting in a political capacity.
That's right. The president doesn't abdicate his duties to the vice president so that he can give a speech at a rally.
Right.
Exactly. The president remains the president of the United States even while campaigning for president. And so just that notion in and of itself that he's trying to delineate between a speech about election integrity that the president was giving on that day and trying to say he's a candidate only and not the president of the United States, I think it's a very hard sell for courts. Obviously, the district court has given a lot of leeway, but the appeals and Supreme Court, I don't think are going to be too keen on that analysis from Jack Smith.
As you know, folks, we've jumped into action. We're preparing to file an amicus brief to remove Biden-Harris's special counsel, Jack Smith. That is important. That is on October 3rd. The weaponization of government against conservatives will impact you, as we were talking about with Ann. That's why we have to defeat it. We have to have election integrity. We have to believe in our elections. We have to believe in the rule of law. And that again, even those who disagree with us are not enemies in that sense, because it's going that way. It's going the way of the banana republic. We have less than 3 days left to go in our Life and Liberty drive. We really need your financial support at the ACLJ. Where you're running behind. I need you to donate if you can. Your gift will be doubled. Donate today at aclj.org. We need that donation. Donate today.